Yeah, welcome back to Abia TV News tonight in our conversation segment centered around the Abia State in focus. The Abia State government has, of course, stated its resolve to continue to give adequate protections to lives and properties in the state, in spite of the instances of insecurity reported from parts of the state recently, which resulted in the death of 3 soldiers, policemen, and villagers abandoning their homes. And to this end, the Nigerian Army has launched an exercise code named Operation Udoka, which is designed to identify the hideouts and flashpoints of criminals and their activities in Abia State. The aim of the exercise, of course, is to reduce instances of kidnappings, activities of unknown gunmen, and other sorts of criminalities so that Abians and residents of the state can have peace and, of course, sleep with their 2 eyes closed. Similarly, the Abia State government has disputed the claim by the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) that it is among the 14 states yet to implement the new 70,000 naira minimum wage, stating that it is misinformation that Abia State has not started implementing the new minimum wage, that Abia workers had received their first salary according to the new wage in October, and the same was done in November. Well, joining me now to discuss further is Ferdinand Ekoma. He's the Special Advisor to Governor Oti on Media and Publicity. Good evening, Mr. Ferdinand, and welcome to Abia TV News.
Good evening, my sister. Thank you for having me on the show.
Good to have you. All right, so there have been pockets of slight unrest in terms of insecurity. What's the situation now, especially after the killing of a lawmaker's orderly by gunmen and other crimes recorded? We also know that Governor Oti has really frowned, at this insecurity and has been making so much effort ever since he got in. We remember the case of when the Abia State government discovered a lot of bodies at Lopanta. So tell us, what's the situation now as regards insecurity in Abia State?
Thank you, my sister. Well, at the moment, she has returned. And we're all aware that on assumption of office, the state was facing a series of security challenges, especially the Law Panther axis in the local government area of Abia State, which you rightly mentioned. And of course, the place was in the news for several years, especially in 2022. I think 2022, yes, or 2021, when the prelate of the Methodist Church in Nigeria was kidnapped, and other, clergymen were kidnapped at that axis. The church was said to have paid a whopping sum of 100 million before the prelate and others were released. So, on assumption of office, the government of Abia State was saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the criminal elements who had built a very powerful criminal architecture, were completely chased out of Abia, so to say. So the government swung into action. And of course, that led to the setting up of the Joint Security Task Force, named Operation Crush. And by the special grace of God, a lot of energies, a lot of resources, a lot of measures were put in place to ensure that normalcy was restored. And today, people can travel through that axis. People can go to Okigwe, go to Imo State from that axis, go to Enugu and all the rest of them. And that is not to say that the government has completely overcome some threats. Once in a while, you witness pockets of, criminal activities. But the most important thing, given the situation compared to what was on ground, in fact, we can say that the government has achieved 80 to 90% security in that axis, and people can now travel freely. So we faced the same problems in different other, in other parts of the state, and we've been able to, a great extent, restore normalcy. But what you witnessed recently was a case of some very notorious criminals who use some parts of Abia as an exit route, because most times investigation has revealed that majority of the people who are kidnapped are not kept in Abia. They're kept in neighboring states. That is very verifiable. That has been established. But the most important thing is that the government is working very assiduously to ensure that security of life and property is guaranteed in Abia. And we are experiencing that. So the government is very much on top of the situation. We are doing everything humanly possible to ensure that Abia is safe and secure for Abians and visitors in the state. And the results are already coming in.
All right, let's move away a bit from security matters now and go over to an incident that happened just this weekend, the last weekend, I beg your pardon, when the NLC, had announced that there are several states who will be joining in the strike action, of course, naming Abia, Enugu, Ebonyi, and the Abia State government quickly, rebutted that statement and said, well, Abia State will not be joining, and that over and again, the governor had pledged his commitment to the Abia worker and their welfare. Now, tell us a bit about that incident. What's the miscommunication there with Abia State, and the NLC not knowing, that Abia State had already commenced the payment of the minimum wage to their workers, and of course, the immediate response there by the government?
Thank you. Well, it wasn't just the government that responded. The NLC Abia State chapter also responded because they were shocked, just like we were all very shocked. We expected the national leadership of the NLC, to have spoken to the leadership of NLC of labor in Abia before including Abia, in that list. It was an embarrassment. It was a blunder that shouldn't have been committed in the first place, because Abia was the very first state that started negotiation, and this is verifiable. Immediately, the federal government reached an agreement with the leadership of the organized labor, the national level. Less than 48 hours, just within 24 hours after that agreement, we contacted the leadership of Labour Party in Abia State and began negotiation. The first thing they told us was, okay, give us some time. We would like to contact the national leadership of our body to be properly guided before opening a negotiation. And we said, okay. When they now came back and said that they were now ready for negotiation, we started. And the state government started. The representatives of the government engaged the NLC in a very fruitful and productive deliberation. And of course, they reached an agreement. And that was why Abia State government started implementing the new minimum wage with the consequential adjustments in October. That was the last month of October. So workers in Abia were paid the new minimum wage. Now, there were some, errors that were identified by NLC affecting some categories of workers from level 8 to level 16. Of course, they contacted the state government and said, we discovered that junior workers were the most favored, were the ones that this minimum wage, is benefiting the most, to the extent that some junior workers were, earning almost the same thing people far ahead of them, in the service are earning. So there was need for this to be looked into. And the government agreed, and there was no issue of any kind at all. There was no problem at all. And negotiations started again to ensure that those people who were not properly, terms of what was provided with respect to the consequential adjustments, were properly taken care of. So they were shocked, and NLC was shocked. We were shocked to hear Abia mentioned as one of the states that had not started, paying the new minimum wage, when we were the very first state that started negotiation, one of the very few states that started implementation. So it was a pure mispresentation. It was an embarrassment. It was a blunder that shouldn't have been committed. And that was why the NLC were on Abia State chapter. They were on the same page with us. This is a responsible government. This is a workers-friendly government. And there was no basis for us to have said we will not pay or we will not start the process of implementation. So that report was misleading, and it should be disregarded.
Certainly, from the onset of Governor Oti's administration, he had made it so clear. Even on Workers' Day, we saw him, present at the ceremony, encouraging workers, and had always been a part, of trying to listen to the average Abia worker, and we can all attest to that. Let me take you a bit backwards to the local government elections that happened a while ago. And it was such a wonder for everyone in Nigeria because unlike some other states where you have the governor, being a political party member of a certain party, and it just looks like a freeway ticket to everyone, having to go through. And Abia came as a shock because the governor is a Labour Party, and then the ZLP swept away all the local governments. Tell us, what's the working relationship there with Governor Oti and the local government chairman under him? Some people are of the opinion that he might find it a bit difficult, getting reelected if there's no synchronization there. Tell us what's happening at that level.
We have a fantastic relationship with our mayors. In fact, these were people, Abinushu, who wanted to run on the platform of the Labour Party. The majority of them were people who wanted to run on the platform of the Labour Party. But because of the confusion, because of the implosion that happened, they took that bold step. They took the decision to contest the election on another platform, which was the ZLP. So, and of course, because they were already known faces, because majority of them believed in Governor Lexoti, have become popular working with Governor Lexoti, aligning with him over the years. Because most of them have been on ground, campaigning and mobilizing. So it wasn't difficult for the electorate to, align and say, okay, wherever you go, we'll follow you. So the message is very clear. And we didn't have any choice than to allow them test their popularity on another platform. And they unanimously won and emerged, and they've been sworn in. So we have no problem with them. They know that whatever made them to go to another platform to contest wasn't caused by Governor Lexoti. All that Governor Lexoti wanted was for the right thing to be done in the Labour Party, was for us not to be caught unawares, for us not to find ourselves in a very difficult situation, and putting heads with other leaders of the party wanted to provide solution to the problem. Unfortunately, some people who were more interested in being in charge of the leadership of the party than winning an election made an attempt to set that bubble trap for us. And of course, most of our members, because election was by the corner, took that decision to go there and run, and they ran and won. And they're still very loyal to Governor Lekoti and cooperating with the government, because the most important thing is providing the gains of democracy, to our people, bringing governance to the doorsteps of our people.
Right.
And that is happening.
Are we going to see a transitioning of Governor Oti to ZLP in the near future? Will there be a possibility of that?
Well, at the moment, we're not thinking in that direction. But in politics, tomorrow, nobody knows what tomorrow holds in store for all of us. But the most important thing, we are facing governance. And wherever we go, wherever platform Governor Lesoti decides to run, he will win. And he will win convincingly, because our people, can see and feel what the government is doing. The facts are on ground. You move around the state, you see for yourself. This one, you don't need anybody to tell you any stories. And governance is all about the people. Governance is all about the people. Once you are meeting the expectations, the desires, the needs of the people, of course, they will align with you wherever you are. The governor is very altruistic in his policies and programs and initiatives and actions. So whatever action he will take, first, he will prioritize the welfare and well-being of our people. And so let's look at what tomorrow holds for us.
So
we know
quickly, my time is almost up, but our correspondent in Abia State made a report that I took during the news where the people of a community were protesting, women specifically, about the airports, about them not wanting, the airport to be located in their land, saying that was not the original place for the airport. Will you tell us quickly what's happening there and why the shift to that particular area?
Well, the area is a very strategic area. Whatever a responsible government does, the most important thing, the utmost priority at all times is what will favor, what will protect the welfare and well-being of the majority of the people. We discovered that some very, I wouldn't like to call them disgruntled politicians, but people who are just selfish, want to use some innocent, uninformed or men and women to cause unnecessary disaffection. The government will not lose anything if it decides to go to another location to site the airport, because there is no gold that the government wants to mine there. But the government has the responsibility of protecting the welfare of its citizens, of carrying out projects that will impact the lives of the people positively, even if the people are so ignorant enough not to appreciate what is coming at that point in time. By the time the project is executed, the people will be glad. They will be saying, this is what we would have lost if the government didn't have the courage to proceed with this project. So there is absolutely no problem at all. They have not given any justifiable reason. They've not said anything that makes sense, which formed the basis for the protest involving a few individuals that were hired. So we are not about that. The most important thing is that the project that is coming there is a project that will serve everyone. It is not a project for the governor. It is not a project to serve the governor's interest or any selfish interest or any agenda. The governor is not taking any land to build a house. So it's just to carry out a project that will develop the place and impact the lives of the people positively. Of course, the government is under obligation to do what is right. It doesn't matter what a few individuals think.
Okay. On that note, we'll stop here, and that's a developing story that we'll intend to follow it up and hook up with you some other time. But we want to thank you for your time tonight, Mr. Ferdinand Ekoma, Special Advisor to Governor Alex Oti in Abia State on Media and Publicity. Thank you for coming through on Afia TV News tonight.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you for having me. You have a lovely night rest.
You're welcome. That's all that we have for you tonight right here on Afia TV News. And on behalf of the entire production team, I am Amazing Grace Ajayi. Thank you so much for joining us on the news tonight, and good night.